Welcome to the Heart-Led Business Show, where compassion meets commerce and leaders lead with love. Join your host, Tom Jacobs, as he delves into the insightful conversations with visionary business leaders who defy the status quo, putting humanity first and profit second. From heartfelt strategies to inspiring stories, this podcast is your compass in the world of conscious capitalism. So buckle up and let your heart guide your business journey.
Well, welcome back to the Heart-Led Business Show. Today, we're rolling out the red carpet for Dr. Amy Gutman, MD, a board-certified emergency doc with a heart as big as her resume, a leadership coach, and the mastermind behind Tough Love MD. Dr. Gutman has spent over 3 decades transforming professionals into unstoppable powerhouses. So join us as we dive into her journey of blending compassion with clinical expertise and discover how she infuses heart into every corner of her business. Dr. Gutman, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much, Tom. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the invite.
Absolutely. And I'm really excited to chat with you today because I always love having doctors on the show because a lot of doctors struggle with the whole business side of providing a really great service, a heart-led service. So I'm really excited to learn about your journey through that. And I'm sure the audience will get some really cool insights as well. So thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
My first question, though, is always, what's your definition of a heart-led business?
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to, for me, it's in the name of my company. So Tough Love MD. So a lot of people think of heart, well, it's caring and giving and charity, and which is wonderful. And I'm 100% behind that. For me, the heart-led part of this is I am passionate about giving that tough love to people. And what tough love to me is, hey, you don't think that you can do these things that I know you can. Or you've been told these, I call them the kind lies throughout your life. Oh, that's fine, you're fine. And sometimes, no matter how strong of a person you are, you need someone to come in and say, no, I'm going to give you that tough love that you need to maybe give a little kick in the, I don't know if we're allowed to say swear words on your show, but a little kick in the tush, kick in the tush, as it were. And so I run my business the same way I run my company. I give professional kicks in people's tushes, if that's the best definition.
I love that too. And the fact that love is in the name, Tough Love MD, just, qualifies it as a heart-led business because it's all about love. And I think people can really appreciate the love behind giving advice or observations that may seem critical and could come across as rude sometimes.
Sure.
People really need that. And I'm sure as an emergency room doc or emergency department doc that you probably have to have a lot of those conversations.
I have a lot of very blunt conversations. I think the most common criticism that I get is that, oh, she's mean. And I'm not mean. I'm blunt. So I did a TEDx talk recently, and it was about patient satisfaction. And I either have 5 stars or 0 stars, or whatever the lowest you can give. And it's, or 1 star, whatever, -2. And Dr. Gutman is the worst physician I've ever had. And the reason in their mind I'm the worst is I'm like, hey, you're here because your sugar's out of control. You're telling me you're following a diabetic diet. You're not following a diabetic diet. Now because of something you have control over, you have a really bad complication. And so I'm like, listen, you can fix this. And some people take to it very well because no one's ever told them that they can have control. They'll take more insulin than ever. But I let people know that they do have responsibility. And I think that's actually empowering to know that you have responsibility in your personal life and professional life. And that's the leadership part. But some people do not take well to that. And I'm perpetually being written up on patient satisfaction. Dr. Gutman's mean. She blamed me because my blood pressure's sky high and it's not my fault that I did X, Y, and Z. When there are things that are out of your control, 100%. I get that.
Yeah.
But you have to have ownership, because if you don't have ownership, you can't improve. So that's the
Yeah.
tough love.
Yeah.
I'm not truly the worst physician on the planet Earth. I'm sure. I hope so. I hope not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually funny. So I've been like a EMS and firefighting forever and a doctor forever, but I was laughing. One of my colleagues last night, he has the Memorial Day weekend off. It's his birthday. And I'm like, I wish him a happy birthday. And I'm like, I'm just morbidly curious. How old are you? So he holds himself very well. Oh, so I'm going to be 33. I'm like, oh my.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, I have underwear older than you are. Oh, that's lovely. Happy birthday.
On that note, that's great. Now, are you seeing, and this is just out of my own curiosity and morbid
Sure.
curiosity, are you seeing that it's a certain generation that is not taking responsibility for their actions? Or is it
I
across the
think
board?
so. I think that it's individuals. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about the sort of the latest generation coming up being um, less responsible. What I think is interesting is the response, though, meaning when I talk to the like 20 to 30-year-olds,
Mhm.
you would think that they would be less responsive. But if you actually hold them accountable, there is a fairly large percentage of people who are like, oh, I had no idea. I think a lot of it comes because they don't necessarily trust authority in the same way that I'm in my 50s. It's a different. So I think if you put it in the perspective of them not trusting authority and giving them back the power, they sort of take that a different way. The other thing is interesting in the 65 and up age group who they don't like being placated.
Mm.
And they're
Yeah.
so used to it. A lot of them have sort of they don't respect authority in a very different way, and also tend to react well when I'm like, "Hey, these are things that you can do." But you also see that in the business world,
Mm.
which are leaders who are, CEOs, CMOs, people who are running companies. They are very used to never being told no. And so when somebody does, their response is also surprisingly receptive in some cases.
Yeah.
Whereas the people who are on their way up, I find that the ones who are like truly leaders actually also respond very well, because there's like, oh, because they've never really been told that they have responsibility for that. So
Mm.
I
Interesting.
I think it's, we talk about different generational things, but it also depends on how you're raised and where you're raised, and that the culture.
Yeah. And I think the reason that I asked that is we're of the same generation, so we're about
Sure.
the same. And so the I don't have kids, but like my niece and nephew of that generation tends to be the ones that get the participation ribbon for everything.
Yeah.
And they're like, and our generation, like we had to fight for,
Mhm.
getting first place, second place, third place, and that was it. There's
Yeah,
nothing after
that's
that.
it. Mm-mm.
And it's first place or nothing, really.
Right.
And, and so you grow up and then you're like entitled to get everything. And when somebody gives you a little tough love, it's like, oh, I'm going on Google. I'm going to give you a 0-star review.
And many do, but some people who got those participation ribbons, I think if you catch them in sort of the right environment and say, "Hey, guess what? You don't just get one in life. Maybe you do need to work a little bit harder." I think some people actually respond well to that. I have a 16-year-old.
Mm.
He's the light of my life. He loves the dance, and he is in his room, and he's an '80s kid. I love it. He loves the '70s and '80s, and it makes me so happy. Um, he will never be on a Broadway stage. I will tell you that. He will
Okay.
never be Fred Astaire or Gene Kelly, but he loves it.
That's
And
cool.
I said, "I don't care who else doesn't care that you're necessarily good at it. Mom, am I good? Are you having fun? Cool. Enjoy." But we also know as much as parents to go, this is not gonna be like a career path for you, but
Mhm.
have fun.
Yeah.
But the same was with participation. So let me ask you this, when you were growing up, was there anything that you desperately wanted to do? Desperately. And
Mm.
if you had not been told that maybe that was not your thing, you would have spent a long time in your life spending money. It's like the kids who go to college and spend, $500,000 on a career that they're never gonna make any money at. No one's ever said to them, "This is not viable." But
Mhm.
in your life, has have you ever had this sort of kick in the teeth that like, "Oh, maybe this is not gonna happen?"
I'm thinking back and not really. And
Lucky
we were
then.
yeah, I mean, we were a musical family, so I
Mhm.
played violin.
Oh,
My
wow.
I had 2 older brothers. My oldest brother plays for the Cleveland Orchestra, has for 25 years, tours around
That's
the world.
amazing.
Yeah, and we were a trio. I got a little tired of it.
Mhm,
He told me later, he said, you could be at the same level that I am had
mhm.
you put yourself out there and actually done the work. I just got disenfranchised in high school from an orchestra teacher who didn't didn't put me where I thought I should be, which was concertmaster. So instead, I went to the stage and I went
Mhm.
through the theater
Oh,
and
wow.
and got a degree in theater management. I didn't and I think at that point, people were like, "Yeah, acting, maybe, maybe not, but you're really good at management." I was like, "This is perfect because there's no math involved in theater man no requirement for math classes." So I was like, "Sign me up for that." But yeah, and then, went through that, but, yeah, I don't think I ever had somebody saying, Tom, maybe you shouldn't go down that road." But
But
I think I did it
it's
myself,
I was gonna say, it sounds like you recognize that, and that
Yeah,
actually takes a lot of insight.
yeah,
And I think when you talk about generational things, maybe that key is a lot of the younger generation, sort of like our 20s and under that I don't even know what they're called anymore.
yeah, me neither.
Next, why, I don't know, whatever. I don't know that they necessarily have that insight, which is where the tough love comes in. I
Mhm,
kind of like help you recognize that insight, and you you don't want to squash people's if like listen, if you're living and dreaming because this makes you happy and you really think you can, give it a shot. Who am
yep,
I to say, right? I don't listen to a lot of like new artists because I they hurt my ears, but somebody does. I mean, they sell
I
records, I guess.
don't know if they call them records anymore.
Or the 8 tracks. Oh, I've got the old
Oh, reel.
Victorola. The Victorola, is that what it's called? With the,
Yeah,
like yeah. Mm.
yeah, yeah. True
Yes, I'm
vibe.
dating myself. Yes, I know. Vinyl. Gotta love it.
That's yeah. So tell us about Tough Love MD. What got you into that heart-led business and, just the journey that you've gone through with that?
Sure. I love emergency medicine and pre-hospital care. I love my job. And despite my Google reviews, I always thought of myself as a fairly decent physician. I work very hard. I'm very nerdy. I think a lot. And I put a lot of time. I'm not the quickest because I sit and I talk to patients, I think. And then I had sort of important disorder. I'd been a lifelong vegan and I hit menopause and I got really sick, like dying sick,
Oh,
and
wow.
could not figure out what was going on. I looked at myself as a patient. I'm like, everything's broken. It doesn't make any sense. And I got sicker and sicker and sicker. And I really lost confidence in myself as a physician. I'm like, I can't even fix me. I can't
Oh, wow.
diagnose me. And really profoundly bad symptoms. And then I stumbled upon sort of a couple little random biochemistry articles as I'm trying to figure out things. I'm, again, super nerdy. And as I went down this rabbit hole into trying to figure out what was wrong and tying all the symptoms together, I unfortunately found out a lot of what I thought I knew about medicine and what I've been teaching people, students and patients for decades was really not correct at all. What I thought was evidence based wasn't. And I became very, very depressed over that, in that not only am I maybe not a good doctor, but I don't even understand this. What I thought was true was not. Really quite fraudulent, a lot of the things that we've taught our patients and things over the years, these horrible conspiracy theories that are now actually really quite real. But in doing that, I discovered a very different way of living, sort of metabolically, addressing root causes of disease. Don't attack a disease as a disease. It's like giving more insulin to a diabetic and not fixing what they're eating.
Right.
And as I discovered that, a very large group of evidence, scientific evidence, came to the forefront. I just dove into it. I found like-minded physicians and clinicians, researchers from around the world, and ultimately fixed myself. Like to the point where I am so much healthier in my mid-50s than I was at age 20.
Wow.
But I did not want to stop there, because I think of it as penance. So this is another thing with a heart-led business. I am so upset that, and there's a wonderful book, it's called Lies I Taught in Medical School. It's Dr. Ken Berry. And I'm like, I need to undo what I've done, but also recognizing that the things that make us physically strong make us mentally strong, and say, what can I do, not just with patients, but how can I help people live fuller lives, like strong lives? And because I'd spent some time in executive leadership, I looked around, I'm like, you know what? I can take all these things I know in emergency medicine that makes a good leader, to run an emergency department,
Yeah.
things I know from executive leadership, and use the science behind it to support people's success. And that's kind of penance in a way. I am letting people know that I had to learn the hard way by getting so sick that there are different ways of living, and not just like showing up every day, but thriving. So that's the core of what I do is Tough Love MD. So at night, I'm like Batman, sort of. At night, I work in the emergency department and in Florida. So there's definitely a lot of hold my beer and watch this in Florida. I love it. And during the day, I either teach or I lecture or I travel, or like a company will say, hey, come for executive retreat weekend, and show people by example, but also using science, how they can be their best. You see a lot of people who are like, it's very rah-rah. I am not a rah-rah kind of person, but I like, hey, this is what you have in you and this is what you can do. And you can do it by doing this. And this is why, this is what the science shows you. So I
Yep.
very, very much enjoy that. I have a dear friend, he's an intensive care doctor. He calls them light bulbs. He says, when you're talking to somebody and all of a sudden they go, ah, he goes, you can like that little cartoon light bulb, you can
Right.
see it go off.
Go off,
And I
right.
love when that happens.
So how did you transition? Well, you haven't really transitioned. You're doing both. How did growing your Tough Love MD business, which is like the executive leadership, are you doing coaching as well
Yeah.
in the small group? So how
Yeah.
did you start that while also being a doc at night? That seems exhausting.
Well, it is. It is exhausting. Actually, I really don't take a lot of my advice, because like, you really need to get like really good sleep for your cortisol. And I'm like, every 2 hours, I'm like, I have a meeting, because I do a lot of business overseas because of night shifts. So nights that I'm off, I do business overseas. It was actually really random. As I was kind of trying to figure out how I could do this penance, I got a call from someone who saw my LinkedIn profile and says, oh, you do traditional medical teaching. At the time, I'd been, lecturer. It's like, this is a mitochondria, click. This is a click. And they said, hey, what are you doing on Saturday? We see you live in Orlando. We've had a speaker drop out of it's like air conditioning executive lunch. We'd love to, can you give a talk? I'm like, on what? Like,
What?
listen,
Your commissioner,
I'm
right?
sure you can pull something and do something medicine-y. I'm like, "Oh." And they said, "We'll give you 5 grand." I'm like, "I'm sorry, what?" And as it turns out, I was working and no one could cover my shifts, but I did find someone for them, and as a thank you, I said, Tell me what do you do? I don't understand. Why would you give $5,000 to someone to show up and give a lecture?" They had you do that at a medical conference, and they give you, like, maybe chicken or, like, a
You get
coupon for the bar.
yeah.
And they said, "No,
Yeah.
physicians who do these things get paid a fairly large amount of money." They said, "We were desperate, that's why we're offering that," but and so I went sort of down that rabbit hole. I'm like, "Hey, maybe I can not just help people in my emergency department, maybe there are people out there that I can have, like, this broader audience."
Mm.
And so that's where the speaking portion of it, which is really challenging. It's because so I started actually podcasting to learn how to talk to people because after so many years on night shift in the emergency department, I just sort of grunt during the day when people talk to you. And it's like, "Hey, what do you think about whatever?" I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about." So I started podcasting to learn how to actually talk to people,
Okay.
have a conversation, spontaneous conversation, and became comfortable on stages, whether you have slides or you're speaking to an audience, and developed a sort of a curriculum. We go signature talks on, hey, I've
Yeah.
got leadership based on science. I have metabolic health, fertility, things like they're like these are random topics, but they're all tied together by addressing your metabolic health. And then that came out to I had someone approach me like, "Hey, can you teach this at a corporate retreat?" I'm like, "Okay." And they said, "Well, we just fly you out to." I'm like, "I'm sorry, you what do you mean you fly people out?" "Yeah, we fly people out." "Oh, sounds cool to me." And so it is very difficult balancing the night and the day, and but it helps me actually fund the things that I love doing that don't pay. Like my heart is still in EMS. I love pre-hospital care. Those conferences don't pay.
Yeah.
So if I get a paid conference, it helps me do the things that don't pay, which is a terrible business thing. So if you want to know how not to run a business, it's that.
Don't charge.
Don't charge. Actually take a loss because, you so
Yeah.
that would not be the world's greatest business advice, but it's really good
Yeah.
for the heart portion of the heart-led
Okay.
businesses.
Yeah. So I like that concept too, because clearly the day job, which is your night job, for a lot of people that can be the safety net. And
Mhm.
so it allows them to do more passion type projects. But also now you're using what you're making on the speaking and your coaching business to then fund doing more pro bono type of work for
Right.
the art-led projects that you love. That's great.
Or undercutting a price. So there are a lot of physicians, just like lawyers, are like, "Oh, it's $500 an hour to do X, Y, and Z."
Mm.
And there's a lot of places that, it's a rural place or underfunded or that just they can't. And so you take it because it's an important job that needs to be done, but you're not gonna make a profit out of it. So that means you have to now seek out something that's gonna pay you double so you
Right.
can continue to do that. And so that's I'm a new business owner. I'm a new CEO. So I run a business, but I'm still at that, okay, I'm just here.
Yeah.
And so next year, this is my goal. And I think that's actually a really important key with businesses
Mm.
is that it can't be just, oh, I want to be the next Mark Zuckerberg or whomever. It has to be a very discrete set of goals. When I have a virtual assistant who's lovely, who she is in the Philippines. So we're actually her day is my day as well because it's night,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
nice.
Sure.
And I said, next month, our first month together when we met, I said, next month, I want to book one $1,000 job. I want you to book me one $1,000 job. That's my goal next month. You're new to each other. Month after, it's either going to be three $1,000 jobs or one $3,000 job.
Okay.
And so you make these specific goals. I want to build my LinkedIn audience by this. I want to have a connection with this person. Be specific. And I said, this is the target. I have this one conference that I'm dying to speak at, not because it pays well, but because of who's there. And I said,
Mm,
if I can get on that stage, those are the people that I want to hear my message, because those are the people that are going to hire me to share that message with more people. So very
yeah.
discreet way to run a business.
Okay. Great. And is that how you're also balancing making a profit in that
Hmm.
business and also being heart led? And
Absolutely.
how did
Absolutely.
you have, because a lot of heart led people, and definitely those that are in the healthcare world as well, have big hearts and they just want to give, give, give. Did you ever have that whole conflict between should I charge? Should I not charge? Like that whole thing, and then ended up not doing it at all or something?
It's hard saying no. It's very, very hard saying no. But then you say, so I'm one of those people, if I can't do a job and exceed your expectations, I really should not be doing that job.
Yeah, 100%.
But maybe if I can't do it, maybe I know someone who can. So
Mm,
it's really hard saying no. But so like today, so I worked overnight, and today I have a meeting with you. I have another meeting later this afternoon, and I have a third meeting that I emailed them 2 days ago. I'm like, "Listen, we're gonna have to just reschedule. I know you have a deadline. We're just gonna do it like 6 hours later. I just can't do like 36 hours. I just know it." And they were not terribly upset, but they were, disappointed, like, "Hey, we've had this meeting set for 2 weeks. I get it. It's just a few hours. We'll move it." I knew it would upset them, but I also knew what time zone they're in, and I gave them enough time.
okay.
So I said, "This is an option, but this is why I'm doing it. Please understand."
Mm,
I never lose focus of the fact that the reason I'm trying to do this is because I don't just want to be a better physician or a better leader. It has to be because I need to be a little bit better too. That's part of
mhm.
it. So that means a better mom, a better wife, a better physician. And so if I never say no, I can't do that work.
Yep,
It is, and I don't mean to go sort of gender roles with it, but it's something that a lot of women struggle with.
absolutely.
And a lot of female business owners, I sort of read incessantly on LinkedIn. I know it can be like a horror show, I understand. But I I find it really interesting, a lot of women executives talk about that particular struggle, and a lot of males executives do not.
Uh-huh.
And I'm sure the struggle is exactly the same, but I think it's actually quite interesting, the divide there, when women have to almost apologize for pulling back a little bit,
Mm,
where you don't necessarily see that in men. Some you do, and I think it's a lovely quality. And it's not like an imposter syndrome. People talk about that all the time. It's I need to be successful. I need to actually focus, and this has to be the focus sometimes.
yeah, absolutely. If you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of others. Right. Put your oxygen mask on first. Right.
Exactly. Although, yeah, I'm flying in a few days. I hope I don't. That is honestly the worst part about being a speaker.
Is it flying?
I
That's my favorite
Yeah,
part.
I love traveling. I love traveling. I hate flying.
Okay, got it.
You like how I mean, you like
Yeah, I
it?
love flying. I have a pilot's license. Of
Oh,
course,
I did not know
simply
that.
yeah, I learned in Orlando. But yeah,
Did you
yeah,
really?
yeah, I did. Yeah, yeah.
My father's a retired B-52 pilot, and I did not inherit that love at all.
That's
I used to be a flight physician on a helicopter, and
um,
I was the thinnest I'd ever been in my entire life, because I literally spent like, anxiety 12 hours before puking, puking all during the shift, puking after the shift.
oh my gosh. The pilot's going, "Oh my gosh, do we have her
Mm.
again?"
Oh my
Right.
gosh. Thank
Yeah,
God
Dr.
she can
Gutman's
save
here today.
lives. Dr. Gutman, get the extra Clorox.
Oh my gosh. Oh my god. I can't believe that we're at that time already. This has just been a fascinating conversation. and a really nice perspective as well in terms of still having kind of the day job, night job, and building a business and still having all that time for heart-led pursuits as well. So I think that's a great story. And thank you so much for being on the show. But before we
Thank
go off,
you.
how do people get a hold of you and get in contact? And maybe they need a speaker. How can they get a hold of you?
Well, you can either drink a beer and cut your hand off with a chainsaw and come to my emergency department, or,
What was that
I
last
mean,
night?
no, we don't pay patient confidentiality, but let me tell
Oh,
you,
that's
it
right.
is Florida. It is Florida. Florida man is real. An easier way, a less painful way, less bloody, would be to go to my website. It's www.toughlovemd.expert.
Oh,
It's a really quite horrible. I have to say my IT skills are not quite as good as my medical skills, but I'm working on it every day. So yeah, toughlovemd.expert, and it lists all my services. And then you can go to LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn under Amy Gutman or Tough Love MD. And listen, have suitcase will travel. I grip, my little, but speaking, I do events. I'm really, really passionate about metabolic wellness, both for personal and professional. And I have a very exciting book coming out. It's called Powerhouse Your Life, Live Your Life Like a Resuscitation. Is all those
oh
things from
wow.
emergency medicine, that
Mm.
leadership, how these weird little things from my life. And I have a very, most emergency physicians are a little weird. We're like little goldfish, but how to take those lessons and apply them to sort of anyone. How can you take this lesson and become better in your personal life or professional life? So lead your life like a resuscitation, coming out soon,
Awesome.
but I'd love it. And I'm on Twitter as well at Tough Love MD, and I've met some wonderful people there and I've been hired for some wonderful jobs just based upon me laying out a challenge like, "Oh, you don't think you can be better? Give me 5 minutes, and I can show you how good you can be." So, and it's all science,
That's awesome.
all
Well, great.
science-based.
Well, Amy, thank you so much for being on the show today. And I really appreciate the conversation. I know our audience is going to love it as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Tom. It was absolute pleasure. I'm, again, so grateful, and it was lovely meeting you.
Thank you. And thank you, listeners, for listening and watching the show today. I really appreciate it. Make sure you're checking out everything that Dr. Gutman is doing. We're going to provide all that down in the show notes, so make sure you're checking that out. And if you could do me a favor, and that's to share the show with a friend or loved one that could use the advice that was shared on today, that will help spread the word about heart-led businesses and help more people get into being more heart-led. So until next time, lead with your heart.
You've been listening to the Heart-Led Business Show, hosted by Tom Jacobs. Join us next time for another inspiring journey into the heart of business.